In the last episode, we looked at the 10 ways to stay poor. In today's episode, we are looking at the 10 ways to get rich without pretending to be rich. In today's world, looking rich is actually easier than ever. You can rent luxury, filter lifestyle, and even fake success on the screen. But here is the problem. While many are busy looking rich, very few are actually becoming rich. And true wealth, it has nothing to do with what you show. It has more to do with what you are building. In today's episode, I will be sharing my top 10 unconventional ways of getting rich for real. No fluffs, no shortcuts, just truths. Because wealth isn't about aesthetics. It's about alignment, focus, and mastery. Before we start, let me quickly chip this in. You can look rich or become rich. The choice costs the same energy, which leads us to the first way to actually getting rich, and it is don't prioritize looking rich over being rich. This right here is the first trap, the confusion of status with success. And the core of this issue is validation, the fundamental poverty mindset. Wealthy people buy freedom, broke people buy validation. Every time you spend capital, money, time, or energy to impress people who are actually not looking at you or even bothered about your future, you are actively delaying your independence. And what looking rich does for most people is it provides them with a temporary, intoxicating hit of social applause. It's an ego injection. But being rich gives you long-term options, the power to say no, the freedom to pivot, and the security to wait for the best opportunities. $1,000 watch looks the same whether you bought it with cash flow or high interest debt. But only one of those purchases compounds wealth. So how do you shift from looking rich to actually being rich? Build assets, aesthetics later. And you are the first asset. So you have to build you first before every other asset can compound. The financially successful are masters of delayed gratification. They are often driving the functional car, wearing the unbranded clothes, and living in the most modest house, while their money is silently being poured into investments, skills, and businesses that generate more income. The truth is, no one remembers what you wore, what you drove, where you lived when you were broke, but they will never forget the freedom you build. The goal is to ensure that your net worth always exceeds your appearance. So stop spending money on things that are expensive to help you look expensive. At the end of the day, true wealth doesn't shout, it whispers. So ensure your life is not whispering poverty while your lifestyle is screaming wealth. If your lifestyle screams wealth, your bank account might be screaming poverty. The second way to actually getting rich is to work on what matters most. You cannot build wealth by simply doing more things. You build wealth by doing the right thing consistently, deeply, and letting it compound. We live in the age of busyness, where activity is confused with productivity. An average person wants to run multiple businesses because it feels safe. What they have failed to realize is focus is the currency of the rich. The financially intentional person understands leverage. They know that 1 hour spent mastering a core skill is worth more than 10 hours spent managing 5 businesses. The average person drowns in business, while the rich prioritize high leverage decisions that generate disproportionate returns. So how do you shift to doing what matters most? Let me give you this 3-point filter you need to use before starting a task. Pass it through this mental filter. Does it move me closer to high leverage income? That is the activity that directly generates revenue or high value assets. The second is, does this build sustainable impact? That is the structure, system, or skill that reduces future time and effort. The third filter is, does this increase future freedom? And that is the investment, the automation, the delegation. If the answer is no, then it's probably noise. If it doesn't build measurable value, then it's a distraction from your wealth journey. Note this, you can't build wealth doing everything. You build wealth doing what matters most. The third way to actually getting rich is to do whatever it takes. The primary reason most people stop pursuing wealth is the moment it requires discomfort. They want the millionaire outcome, but they are not willing to endure the marathon of late nights, unpopular choices, early mornings, and consistent energy expenditure that building real value actually demands. They treat their professional life like a 9-to-5 exchange, trading time for a paycheck, and they wonder why their finances never change. Winners don't wait for perfect conditions, perfect motivation, or even permission. They adapt under pressure and most times force the results. And this isn't about working harder. It is about being strategically ruthless with your time and energy until the critical task is complete. It means accepting the fact that the next level of wealth requires a certain level of effort you have not yet sustained. So how do you shift to doing whatever it takes? Trade your wishbone for a backbone. The wishbone hopes for success. The backbone supports the execution required for success. You must become the kind of person who sees the necessary difficult step, like learning a complex model, firing a non-performing employee, or having crucial conversations, and execute it immediately without hesitation. If you actually want to get rich, you have to learn to do what is necessary and not what is convenient. Those who get rich don't ask, "Can it be done?" They ask, "How can I do it?" Because at the end of the day, your excuses won't pay your bill, your actions will. The fourth way to actually getting rich is to not tolerate mediocrity. Mediocrity is poverty's favorite cousin. If you don't know, now you know. Every time you utter the phrase, "That's good enough," you are actively negotiating with smallness. True wealth is rarely earned through average output. It is earned through output that stands out or fundamentally solves a bigger problem better than the alternative. Mediocrity is a standard of the effort, a measure of just doing enough to get by. While excellence, on the other hand, is a standard of the outcome, a measure of impact. When you tolerate mediocrity in any area of your life, be it your health, your product, your work, or financial education, that low standards bleeds into other parts of your life. It normalizes average results, which guarantees average income. And I know the you that is watching doesn't want an average income. Therefore, we are not here to tolerate mediocrity. So how do you shift from mediocrity to excellence? Hold yourself to standards that make average people uncomfortable. And this could mean over-delivering on value and not competing on price. It means being known for reliability, precision, and depth. Excellence attracts abundance and it creates rarity. When you commit to a high standard, you naturally filter out low-value opportunities and attract clients, partners, and systems who are playing at the same level. This is to say, you can't get rich on low standards, so raise your floor. The fifth way to actually getting rich is to be irreplaceable. The market pays based on two things: scarcity and skill. If your job description or your side hustle can be done by just anybody, you will most likely struggle to create wealth. This means you'll be perpetually replaceable and therefore perpetually underpaid. And this will cap your earning potential by the ease with which you can be easily substituted. One thing I have learned on this street is that the path to being rich is to make yourself a bottleneck of specialized value. This requires intentional effort to develop expertise so specific, so deep, so integrated with rare technologies that people must come to you, which means you are no longer competing on effort or value, but you will be commanding a premium based on your unique value. So how do you shift to irreplaceable? Become a category of one, period. Stop thinking about what job you want and start thinking about the problem you can solve better than 99% of the world. Blend 2 or 3 unique skills to create a combination that is rare. Because when you differentiate yourself, you stop competing in the busy red ocean and move to the blue ocean of unique opportunity. I want you to note this: if you can be replaced, you can be underpaid. The goal is to be irreplaceable. So stop competing and start differentiating. The sixth way to actually get rich is to stop doing what everyone else is doing. The crowd is comfortable, but the crowd is poor. The financial path of the majority is trading time for money, waiting for government pension, accumulating lifestyle debt, planning towards retirement. All this puts a limit to their financial ceiling. And if you follow the crowd, you inherit their limits. Real wealth builders, they have a contrarian mindset. They don't mind being misunderstood in the present for the sake of being right in the future. They see the crowd and they understand that the highest returns are usually found in areas that are currently unpopular, unproven, or slightly awkward. The crowd waits for permission and proof of concept. Leaders create opportunity and move first. So how do you stop doing what the crowd is doing? You have to study patterns, then intentionally break them. Pay attention to what they are doing, where they are investing, how they are working, what they are consuming, what they are learning, and find the intelligent opposite. This isn't about being different for the sake of it. It's about recognizing that innovation is wealth's favorite language. So look out for the trends before they hit mass market and stop playing in the mass market. Remember, when you do what everyone else does, you get what everyone else has, and that is mediocrity. The seventh way to actually get rich is to stop assuming you know it all. Ego is expensive, but humility compounds. The person who thinks they have all the answers will stop seeking new information and therefore limit their perspectives. In a world that is changing faster than ever, that stagnation is the quickest route to financial irrelevance. What I have figured is the wealthiest people in the world, the true builders, they are constant learners. They are perpetually curious, they are teachable, and they are quick to adapt when confronted with contradictory data. They understand that their past success is irrelevant to their future success unless they are constantly upgrading their skills and mental models. The moment you start defending your old ideas fiercely, you stop generating new wealth. So how do you shift from knowing it all? Be more interested in growth than being right. Create a simple habit of actively seeking out intelligent people who disagree with you. Listen to their arguments not to defeat them, but to genuinely understand their perspectives. Let the results of your work prove the efficacy of your ideas. If the data says your strategy isn't working, stop mourning on your efforts and change the strategy immediately. Because the minute you stop learning, your earning plateaus. At the end of the day, being right won't make you rich. Being adaptable will. The eighth way to actually get rich is to stick on long enough for consistency to compound. We live in a culture of instant gratification, which trains us to quit in the moment where the novelty wears off or the results plateau. Most people quit their wealth journey because it takes time. But the time is the very engine that compounds wealth, skills, and repetition. Most value high endeavors like building a solid business, mastering a strategy, or becoming a top-tier expert does not follow a linear curve. There is a long, difficult stretch where effort seems to yield zero results. I call it the disruption phase. And this right here is where most average people quit, right before the exponential growth begins. And this right here is where the rich stay long enough for their efforts to start talking. So how do you shift from instant gratification? Stop resetting, stay planted. You can't plant corn in the morning and harvest it for lunch. Is it possible? Of course not. I don't know if you've heard of this Chinese bamboo tree that doesn't grow in the first 4 years, and within the first 6 weeks, on the 5th year, it grows. Would you say it took 6 weeks to grow or 5 years to grow? Of course, it took 5 years, but the growth was not seen in 4 years. So learn to commit long enough before you start evaluating success. You wouldn't expect a sapling to bear fruit if you move it every month. So don't expect your focus to pay off if you jump between ideas every quarter. Note this: consistent intensity is the lubricant of compounding. So stick long enough for your consistency to compound. The ninth way to actually get rich is to have high agency. High agency is the mindset of radical ownership and proactive problem solving. It means operating with the internal conviction of, if it must be done, then I will find a way to do it. And this is the psychological opposite of low agency, which waits for permission, waits for the perfect solution to be presented, or waits for external authority to solve the problem. This is to tell you that poor people wait for chances while rich people create solutions. When a roadblock appears, the I agency individual doesn't complain or blame. They immediately start creating a bypass, learning the new skill, or finding the resources to move forward. They are architects in their own circumstances, not just actors in a script written by others. So how do you become I agency? Take radical ownership. Simple. Stop using passive language like, I hope this works out, let's see how it goes, I'm trying my best. And start saying, I will make this work out, I will do what it takes, and I'll give it my all. You don't have to wait for doors to open. You can study the wall, then either build a new door or climb over the top. The bottom line is, stop waiting for doors to open for you and start being a door builder. The 10th way to actually get rich is to stop being scared of making mistakes. The fear of mistakes is not just crippling, it's the ultimate financial limiter. Mistakes are tuition. They are simply the price you pay for necessary real-world data. So being scared of making mistake is the greatest mistake you are actually making, because it condemns you to the sideline and to a life where you never execute a single idea bold enough to generate wealth. The only way to know what works in the market for your business, for your skills or values, is to test what doesn't. So the person who moves slowly to avoid mistakes will be outpaced by the person who moves quickly, tests relentlessly, and corrects instantly. So the true cost is not the mistake in itself, but the lost opportunity that comes from being paralyzed by fear. So how do you stop avoiding mistakes? Redefine failure as data. When a test or a launch goes wrong, you don't call it failure, you call it feedback. You analyze the data, extract the lessons, and incorporate it into your next test. You will discover that this attitude turns setback into acceleration. The cost of inaction, which is the money you could have made, the skill you could have mastered, the opportunity you could have taken, is always mathematically higher than the cost of mistake. So don't forget, the cost of inaction is always higher than the cost of mistakes. I know I said 10 in the beginning, but I decided to add this one extra point to it. And it is work towards being rich rather than being right. This final point synthesizes the entire video. It's about the ultimate choice between ego and outcomes. Some people are so committed to their current opinions, beliefs, or political grudges that they would rather cling to them and be broke than humbly admit they were wrong and change their lives. At the end of the day, you cannot deposit your opinions at the bank. So why cling to it if it's not serving you? One thing I have learned is the pursuit of wealth requires a pragmatic, outcome-driven mindset. If your current strategy is failing, you change it, even if it hurts your pride. If your business model is not working, change it, even if you feel it should work. You must be willing to sacrifice the temporary satisfaction of winning an argument or proving a point in exchange for the long-term, tangible goal of building your future. You know what I figured out these days? I just want to be rich, and I'm letting those who want to be right, be right. So how do you work towards being rich rather than being right? Choose outcomes over ego. When faced with a difficult decision or a critic, ask yourself, do I want to win this argument, or do I want to win my future? Do you know one thing the rich have mastered? The art of being silent, listening to critics, extracting the one good point, and moving forward towards the results, while their detractors are still arguing the details. So many people are broke today, not because of anything in particular, but because of their pride and clinging on to old patterns that no longer serve them. One thing I have learned is your pride can make you broke and your humility can make you rich. So the question here is, would you rather be right or be rich? And before you say, oh, money is not everything, I totally agree with you. But if you sort out that aspect of your life early, you will arrive at others in grand style. And so you know, true wealth isn't just about money. It's about options, freedom, and fulfillment. If you reverse engineer these 11 points, you will see the patterns. Rich people don't just think differently, they decide and act differently. My 2 cents to you is, don't just wish to get rich. Design yourself into the kind of person who can't stay poor. If this video challenged you, I want you to do 2 things. Comment, I choose to be rich, not to be right. The second thing is to subscribe, because the next episode will take this even deeper. And don't forget to stay intentional with your actions, and I will see you in the next video.